first Sri Lankan to contract coronavirus in Sri Lanka, received treatment at the Infectious Diseases Hospital. Sri Lanka Podujana Perumana signs nomination papers for 17 districts. Ranjit Manduwa Bandara confirms at the National Elections Commission Jatika Samagi Jana Balawegaya to contest the general election under the symbol of the telephone. Secretary of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing incidences of political persecution surrenders to court. 5 students suspected to have injured the Jayawardhanapura University student arrested.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News here on TV1. Now in your Leeds news this evening, the first Sri Lankan to have been tested positive for the coronavirus was reported today. Now, health authorities said that the patient is receiving treatment at the National Institute of Infectious Diseases. The patient, who has been identified as a resident of Kottawa, had been admitted to the National Institute of Infectious Diseases 2 days ago. The National Institute of Infectious Diseases stated that the patient, who had been diagnosed with the virus yesterday, is not in a critical condition, despite showing certain symptoms. The family members of this individual are also being quarantined at their residence. It has been revealed that the patient had been employed as a guide for certain tourist groups. The tourist guide has stayed at the driver's quarters in the hotel. Drivers, assistants and tour guides stay together at this place. This tour had operated from the 3rd to the 8th of this month. However, he had gone on other trips as well. An efficient system is needed to monitor foreign tourist groups. This is because the tourism industry can operate only if the country is safe. There are 3 areas frequently visited by foreigners. They are Colombo, Sigiriya and Kandy. The manner in which the patient had travelled in these places should be monitored. We are investigating into the family members and the persons who made contact with him. If this disease spreads like in Italy, we will not be able to curb the spread of this virus no matter how hard we try. An unfavorable situation is being created in the country. That is because people cannot move freely. We have spotted the Dambadiva pilgrimage. We are also requesting the people to refrain from taking part in religious pilgrimages.
We will have to temporarily ban all public gatherings if this situation worsens. However, we don't feel that this has to be done immediately. As the government, we will conduct ourselves in a responsible manner. The first patient was reported from our country. He had visited certain areas. We don't know the situation in those areas. Support this process on behalf of the people instead of being selfish.
Generally, the youth and the children are less likely to be affected by this disease. The main symptom of this disease is pneumonia. The elderly are likely to be affected by this. We request everyone to maintain the highest standard of personal hygiene. Meanwhile, the President's Media Division has requested the support of the public in the government's efforts to curb the spread of the virus. The Ministry of Foreign Relations noted that it is holding talks with the government of the United Arab Emirates, in which 2 Sri Lankans were diagnosed with the virus. More than 275,000 Sri Lankan citizens are currently in the UAE. The Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment has also requested those seeking foreign employment to postpone such plans due to the current situation.
Now, coronavirus has made it to the headlines here in Sri Lanka as well as internationally. The first Sri Lankan tested positive for the coronavirus is currently receiving treatment at the IDH. Now, 2 more incidents linked to the coronavirus was reported from Anuradhapura and Chilao today.
The Anuradhapura police had received a tip-off regarding a foreign couple who were suffering from an illness and were lodged at a rest house in Anuradhapura. Our correspondent said the foreign couple had then been admitted to the Anuradhapura Teaching Hospital. The admitted couple are a 72-year-old lady and a 65-year-old male. The couple had arrived in the country on the 28th of last month and had travelled to several areas of the country. The director of the Anuradhapura Teaching Hospital had directed for the couple to be treated in an isolation chamber. Meanwhile, a woman reported to be suffering from phlegm and shortness of breath had admitted herself to the Chilao District General Hospital this evening. According to our correspondent, the woman, who is 56 years of age, had arrived in the country from overseas on the 3rd of this month. The staff at the hospital who exercised precautionary measures while treating the woman had then transferred her to the National Institute of Infectious Diseases. Reports have also emerged that the woman in question had organized a gathering for a group of people after arriving in the country as well.
Now, an airport is a place where people from all corners of the world gather, and it is important the measures taken when it comes to preventing foreign illnesses from entering into the country, and it's important to know what measures we have taken here in Sri Lanka, especially when it comes to the airports. So the chairman of the Airport and Aviation Services explained the steps taken during a press briefing today.
All passengers arriving from South Korea and Italy have been subjected to the quarantine process once they arrive in the country. As of today, 622 such passengers have been handed over to the army for the quarantine process. As the largest airport in the country, it is vital that they are extracted from every aircraft they arrive in. There is a separate team from the health department to handle their documents. This is something that must be done in the national interest. They think that this is not needed to be done and that they can be sent home immediately. This is a need as a country of 20 million people. If one or two come in and go out into the country, it can lead to big problems.
Now, protests were held against the decision to quarantine passengers arriving from overseas in particular.
A group of lawyers staged a protest opposite the Batikulo courts today. Meanwhile, the army has requested the public to support the quarantining process of visitors arriving from South Korea, Italy and Iran. Issuing a statement, the army headquarters said that this process is facing obstacles as a result of protests and fear that is being spread in the country. The army said that certain groups had even obstructed the buses transporting visitors to the quarantine centers in Punani and Kandakadu. In its statement, the army also requested those undergoing quarantining to support the process. Meanwhile, attention has been drawn towards setting up quarantine facilities at provincial levels upon the instructions of Acting Chief of Defence Staff, Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva.
Certain Sri Lankans have voiced their opinion in favor of this process. Those who are coming from overseas are our own brothers and sisters. They should understand that the Health Ministry had taken all relevant steps to prevent the virus until one case was reported today. Some might dislike the quarantining process. Even if they don't like it, we kindly request them to consider the process as a must. This is because we shouldn't allow the virus to enter our country. It is only a few who are causing problems by objecting to this. They too will understand the importance of this after staying in the quarantine center for a day.
The government has made a decision to cancel the issuance of the on-arrival visa facility for visitors until further notice. Now, it's important to note that the passengers arriving in the country tonight will not be affected by this decision. The Government Information Department said that this will not come into effect immediately, but a decision will be reached as soon as possible. Now, meanwhile, legal action is to be instituted against those who will not comply with the quarantine process.
This complete process of quarantining takes place under the legal provisions available in Sri Lanka. The Sri Lanka police believes that the people will comply with them. In legal terms, this comes under the Quarantine and Prevention of Diseases Ordinance of 1987. As per the second clause of this act, the minister can enact regulations. It's on this basis that these quarantine centers have been put in place. If there is a violation of this act and if the accused is convicted at a magistrate's court, they can be jailed for 6 months to be fined a fee between 10 and 2,000 rupees.
How will the Sri Lankan economy be impacted by the coronavirus? We spoke to the chief economist at the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, Shiran Fernando. Let's listen to what he had to say.
The impact of COVID-19 has had its impact on the humanitarian side, but also we are seeing the fallout in terms of the economic side as well as the business side. So for Sri Lanka specifically, there is the supply chain impact, which is stemming for a lot of the industries, from apparel to some of the export industries which rely on packaging which comes in from China and other countries, and also on the pharmaceutical side, where we're seeing concerns with regards to raw material imports for manufacturing and also importing from other countries to supply the domestic market. While we're also noticing significant impact on tourism, I think in the more long term, in the next 3 to 6 months, the concern would be how it will impact the demand side of things, because this is certainly slowing down global growth from the expectations that most forecasters had at the start of the year, and what that would mean in terms of demand in key markets like the US and the European Union. So that really needs to be looked at as we go along, and the containment and mitigation strategies both in Sri Lanka as well as the world and the region will really determine the continued fallout from the impact.
A number of processes carried out and steps taken when it comes to containing the coronavirus have been subjected to criticism. Here are some of the views expressed in this regard.
A proper mechanism is not implemented while treating the people upon arriving at the airport. The people are being harassed. They are being considered as patients without a medical examination. They are cornered in the society. They have chosen Hizbullah's university as a quarantine center. There was a huge protest against using the quarantine center in Kandakadu, stating that charges are being levied for the quarantining process. 7,500 rupees were levied as charges amidst this protest. We saw how people arrived from overseas to vote this government into power. At that time, they were treated well at the airport. Now, how are they treated at the airport? The tourism industry in the country has faced a huge drawback. Firstly, it was affected by the April 21st terrorist attacks. Now it has been affected due to the coronavirus. Irrespective of what anyone says, the economy was managed in our country. Tax concessions and allowances were granted. Solutions were provided for leasing problems and loan-related issues. Interest rates were slashed. Interest-free loans were given. All those benefits should be extended due to the coronavirus.
ඒ ලබා දුන්නු සහන සියල්ලක් තවත් දීර්ඝ කරන්නට ඕන මේ කොරෝනා වසංගතය නිසා.
2020 මාර්තු 7 වෙනිදා.
Two flights from China landed in the country at 5 a.m. on the 7th of March 2020. These 181 passengers who arrived were not quarantined. It is a very dangerous situation indeed. Till 10th, that means yesterday, none of the passengers were quarantined. Letters which were sent from the Ministry of Health clearly instruct only to quarantine passengers who arrived the country from Italy, South Korea and Iran. They send these people to Batticaloa, but yet the passengers from China arrive and walk before us. Why aren't they taken like this? It took 9 hours for them to arrive to Sri Lanka. However, for 8 hours, these passengers had to waste their time. At that moment, this leaflet was distributed even to purchase a bottle of water. If it spread like this, we cannot predict what will happen in 3 or 5 months.
පත්‍රිකාවක් බෙදෙනවා. මේ විදියට ව්‍යාප්ත වෙලා ගියොත් තව මාස 3කින් 5කින් මොනවා වේද කියලා කියන්න බෑ.
The novel coronavirus that initially emerged from the central Chinese city of Wuhan is now being reported daily around the world. We here at Newsfirst believe that all of us should be informed of what this virus is about and what measures that we can take when it comes to curtailing the spread of the virus. So we spoke to the infectious diseases specialist, Professor Sanjay Senanayake, in this regard, and here's what he had to say.
It's important if you are in an area with a lot of transmission or some transmission to make sure you practice good hand hygiene. Wash your hands after touching surfaces which infected people or infected people's droplets may have touched. Stay 1 meter away from people when you're outside. So the most common symptoms that people experience are fever and cough. So as you can see, fever and a cough is very non-specific. So many other infections like influenza, the flu can cause this. So that can make diagnosis very difficult. And I think it's really important for the public not to panic. It's really important to remain calm. And because the symptoms can be so mild, that the resources are stepped up to try and identify people in the community who might be sick with the virus. Because if you can do that and identify them quickly and isolate them quickly, then you're going to reduce the risk of it being transmitted to other people. So that's the key at the moment. If you are concerned that you might have this virus, speak to health authorities or the health department and just see if you are at risk and if you need to be tested. A cold or a flu should stay home from school and should stay home from work. And if you're outside with a cold or a cough, make sure you practice good etiquette. So
major events, key events across the globe and also here in Sri Lanka have been either cancelled or postponed due to the fears of the ongoing coronavirus outbreak. It is also noteworthy to mention that the coronavirus summit that was to be held in New York was also cancelled due to the fears of the coronavirus outbreak. It is to make sure that public gatherings are avoided at any cost. I have here Mr. Ashok Dias joining us in our newsroom. Mr. Dias, give us an understanding about the situation in the country.
Yes, various corporations have already decided to postpone or cancel their key events in the coming weeks or coming months. The Capital Maharaja Organization Limited, which has scheduled its annual review meeting, the famous EOTY meeting on 3rd April, announced today that they will postpone the event. And then there are certain musical events that were planned for Sirius FM and YFM during the coming weekend, which again were cancelled. And then the more important Sirius Vesak Kalape, which is a very important event of the Capital Maharaja Organization's annual calendar, has been cancelled. And all these decisions are taken in line with the corporate responsibility to support, to control and manage this corona outbreak.
Yes, Mr. Dias, now they say prevention is better than cure. So most of these organizations, likewise in the international arena, have taken measures and decisions to make sure that we don't fall prey to this coronavirus outbreak. One important thing that we should not forget is the upcoming general election. How will this be impacted?
Yes, Asra. Now, tomorrow starts the nomination period and it will go up to 19th of this month. And with these nominations, the election process proper will start. And this is the general election, and this is the time that the country decides who will rule the country Sri Lanka for the next 5 years. So this is a very, very important election at a crucial juncture, and people must have adequate information to take an appropriate decision in the general election, which party to select, whom to decide as their representatives in the legislature. And with this preferential voting system, people, the candidates should have the opportunity to present their views, present their manifestos to the people, and the political parties also should have the right to present themselves and present their policies to the people. Now, the government has already stated that they should try, everybody should try to control big gatherings and people where a lot of people get together and contact each other. Now with this situation, it is really challenging how to manage corona outbreak. Now we have to take a decision, and we have to take a decision without delay. That's the most important thing. Election Commission's department, the Election Commission and the health authorities has to think and consult the relevant parties and take a decision early rather than late. Because in a democracy, to take a decision, you need information. To get information, the political parties will obviously hold pocket meetings, small rallies, and then they will be canvassing people, going house to house and informing the electorate what their policies are, who their candidates are. Then the mass rallies. In Sri Lanka, the mass rallies are quite popular, and there will be huge participation. And giving an opportunity to one party and another day cancelling the rallies and pocket meetings will not be a democratically healthy situation. So there must be a decision taken with proper consultation, and I think it is important to take this decision early. And in this sort of a scenario, the best is to postpone the election and allow the corona outbreak to settle. That's a very important thing, and this is the time, this day before the nominations are handed over. So it is a decision that the Election Commission has to take early with appropriate information.
Now in news from the political arena, the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumana finalized the nomination list for 17 districts today. The district leaders signed the nomination papers at the official residence of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa in Colombo today.
Religious observances took place prior to the signing of nominations in the presence of the Mahasangha. A number of political leaders, including President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and former President Maithripala Sirisena were present during the occasion. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa signed the nomination papers to contest the Kurunegala district at the auspicious time of 11 AM today. Dinesh Gunawardena from the Colombo district, Prasanna Ranatunga for the Gampaha district, Rohita Abe Gunawardena for the Kalutara district and Dallas Alhapiruma for the Matara district signed the nomination papers as district leaders. While Vasudeva Nanayakkara signed the nomination papers for the Ratnapura district, Ramesh Patirana placed his signature as the leader for the Galle district. Mahindananda Alutgamage signed the nomination papers as the leader of the Kandy district, while Arumugam Tondaman signed the nomination list from the Nuwara district. Sanat Nishanta from the Puttalam district, Shashindra Rajapaksa from the Monaragala district, Nimal Siripala de Silva from the Badulla district, S.M. Chandrasena from the Anuradhapura district, Susanta Punchinilame from the Trincomalee district and Namal Rajapaksa from the Hambantota district signed their nomination papers afterwards. Kadamastan signed the nominations for the Vanni electoral district, while Kanaka Herat signed the nomination papers for the Kegalle district. District leaders for the Polonnaruwa, Digamadulla, Batiklo, Jaffna and Matale electoral districts did not sign their nomination papers. Our intention is to obtain the highest percentage for Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa.
There are small disagreements. We were also put in jail twice or thrice. All of them were in the UNP together then. We must put all those aside, think about the country and move forward. The leaders will speak about that and present a team that can win. We must strengthen the provincial councils as well, so we can put forth intellectuals and professionals to the provincial councils as well. The leaders of the SLFP and SLPP have discussed and made decisions in that regard. Nominations have been given according to the respective districts. When you take the Hambantota district, Mahinda Amaraveera has received nominations. There is no problem there.
It is not about calculating the quota. Discussions are ongoing with regard to that. We have been promised a 60 or 70% share in the nomination list for certain areas. We can resolve them. As politicians, we must learn to bear these things. If not, we can't do politics. The SLFP was destroyed. The country was ruined. I have that issue. Once it was decided that he will contest the election, then it is up to the people of that district to make the call. I have no issue with the SLFP. He shot a friendly smile at me. We smiled at each other.
The General Secretary of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya, Ranjit Madhuma Bandara, reiterated that the alliance led by Sajith Premadasa will contest under the symbol of the telephone.
The Samagi Jana Balawegaya will form the government by the 26th of April after winning the general election. There is no point in posing that question to me. We will contest under the symbol of the telephone under the Samagi Jana Balawegaya ticket.
The
name of our alliance includes the word unity. We discussed this matter for 3 months. Now we are speaking about the election.
Now, Attorney General Dappula De Oliveira today informed the Presidential Commission of Inquiry appointed to probe incidents of political persecution in writing that it does not have judicial powers or authority to question the conduct of the Attorney General at the Permanent High Court trial at bar. This was in response to a notice issued to the Attorney General to appear before the Presidential Commission.
Pearl K. Veerasinghe, the Secretary to the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, surrendered before the Permanent High Court trial at bar via her lawyers today. Court had issued warrants on her for the second time as she had failed to appear before court on previous occasions. The warrants were issued based on an incident in which investigative material relating to an ongoing elephant trafficking case against Ali Roshan and 8 others were taken to the Presidential Commission. The judge bench hearing the case withdrew the arrest warrant after the Secretary to the Presidential Commission promised to produce the documents before court tomorrow.
Now, a student who was critically injured after a tyre fell upon him at the Sri Javardhanapura University continues to receive treatment at the intensive care unit of the Colombo General Hospital. The Mirihana police recorded statements from 5 students in connection to the incident. Police said that the student who is believed to have thrown the tyre upon the victim was among those from whom statements were recorded today. Now, Transparency International Sri Lanka has written to the United Kingdom Serious Fraud Office posing several queries regarding to the AIRBUS scandal.
The letter states, while the UK's Serious Fraud Office's investigation has resulted in a deferred prosecution agreement with AIRBUS, wherein the manufacturer has agreed to pay a fine and costs amounting to €991 million in the UK, general principles to compensate overseas victims in bribery, corruption and economic areas has not been given due consideration. Accordingly, TISL has posed several queries to the Serious Fraud Office. Number 1. Section 1 of the General Principles mandates the Serious Fraud Office, the Crown Prosecution Service and National Crime Agency to consider the question of compensation in all relevant cases. What were the reasons that justified your decision not to consider this case in line with the general principles? Number 2. Why did the Serious Fraud Office and Crown Prosecution Service not include compensation as part of the terms of the DPA entered into with AIRBUS SE? Did the SFO work collaboratively with the Department of International Development, Foreign and Commonwealth Office, Home Office and Her Majesty's Treasury to identify potential victims including affected states, assess the case for compensation, obtain evidence including statements in support of compensation claims? The letter goes on to note that the TISL is aware of 5 prior instances where the SFO along with the NCA and CPS have secured compensation for overseeing victims totaling €42.9 million as disclosed by the SFO's website. Thus, it is said that TISL is understandably concerned that it appears the same yardstick may not have been used to assess Sri Lanka's case for compensation.
Now in some news from the world of business, veteran Indian investment banker Hemendra Kothari, the chairman of DSP Investment Managers, was awarded the Deal Maker Hall of Fame Award at the Mint India Investment Summit and Awards 2020. Let's now take a look at the daily stock market update.
Today, boards ended in the green territory, reversing the downward trend witnessed in the last 4 consecutive sessions, and also with the recovery seen in the global markets. ASPA experienced a continuous upward movement during the day and recorded an intraday high of 5,224 before closing at 5,205, gaining 83 points.
Let's now take a look.
Sri Lanka's oldest cricket encounter, the Battle of the Blues between Royal College Colombo and St. Thomas's College Mount Lavinia will begin tomorrow at the SSC grounds. This is the 141st consecutive year the match is being played.
cricket match in the world. It is played for the DS Siranaka Memorial Shield. While both teams have won 35 games apiece, Royal College last emerged victorious in 2016. This year we put in place a plan and performed well over the season. We have faced every possible situation, so we know how to face anything. Our intention is to do whatever possible and bring the shield to college this year.
Ahan
Wickramasinghe and Kamil Mishara are joining us after the Under-19 World Cup. We completed 3 outright victories, won 8 first innings. The team has played well with the bat and the ball. We feel we can bring the shield back to Royal College this year. St. Thomas's College emerged victorious at last year's big match. It is the same plan this year too. All the coaches have been with us. The team has practiced well. Ravindu Rashanta and Yasiru Rodrigo, who played the World Cup this time and went on the West Indies tour, are also in our team and have good experience.
The experience at අප කණ්ඩායම මෙම සීසන් එකේ හොඳට ක්‍රීඩා කරලා තිනවා තරඟ 4ක් ජයග්‍රහණය.
Our team has played well this year. We won 4 games. Compared to last year, the team has batted better too. We plan to win this time. We have a good balanced time. We have a very good balanced team.
බැලන්ස් කණ්ඩායමක් ඉන්නවා.
The 141st Battle of the Blues will continue for 3 days, beginning tomorrow.
So with that, it's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight. For News First, I've been John Fernando. Take care and good night.